The cafe fell silent as she walked in, elegant, powerful, flanked by security. Her eyes locked with mine across the room, and I knew my life would never be the same. Just hours earlier, I was simply Jack Bennett, struggling single dad sharing tea with 3 little girls who'd asked me to pretend to be their father. Now I was facing a billionaire with a secret that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my own daughter. If you're touched by stories of unexpected connections and life-changing moments, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us how quickly life can change. I never thought much about the small cafe on Maple Street until it became the place that changed everything. It was just a quiet spot where I could afford a cup of tea and a moment's peace while my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, was at her weekend art class. Being a single dad wasn't something I'd planned. When my wife Emma died 3 years ago, leaving me alone with our 4-year-old, I thought my world had ended. Some days, I still felt that way. But Lily's smile kept me going, her mother's smile, with those same dimples and bright eyes that crinkled at the corners. That Saturday started like any other. Lily bounced excitedly as I dropped her off at the community center. "Dad, I'm going to paint a unicorn today," she declared, her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Can't wait to see it, sweetheart," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I'll be at the cafe when you're done." The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Just me, my laptop, and the stack of past due bills I was trying to sort through. Construction work had been slow lately, and the medical bills from Emma's illness still haunted our finances. I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a simple cup of tea, and spread my papers across the table. That's when I noticed them. 3 identical little girls, maybe 8 or 9 years old, huddled in the corner booth. They wore matching blue dresses, their dark hair pulled back in identical ponytails. They kept glancing my way, whispering among themselves. No adult seemed to be with them. I tried to focus on my bills, but something felt off. The girls were too young to be alone. After a few minutes, the smallest of the 3, though they were nearly identical, one was slightly tinier than the others, slid out of the booth and approached my table. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Could you pretend to be our father? Just for a little while?" I blinked, caught completely off guard. "I'm sorry, what?" The girl glanced nervously over her shoulder. "Please. We need a dad right now." Before I could respond, the cafe door opened, and the girl flinched. A man in a dark suit stepped in, scanning the room with cold eyes. The little girl grabbed my hand. "Please," she whispered urgently. "Just pretend." Something in her frightened eyes made me nod. She immediately brightened, calling out loudly, "Daddy. We found a table over here." The other 2 girls rushed over, sliding into the chairs around my table as if we belonged together. The man in the suit paused, watching us carefully. "Everything okay, girls?" I asked, trying to sound natural. "Yes, Daddy," they chorused, with practiced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. The man in the suit lingered a moment longer before stepping back outside. Through the window, I could see him speaking into a phone. "What's going on?" I asked quietly. "Where are your parents?" The girls exchanged glances. The one who'd approached me first, I would later learn her name was Sophie, spoke up. "Our mother is busy. We're supposed to be with our nanny, but we ran away." "Ran away? Why would you do that?" "Because they're going to separate us," said the second girl, Olivia. "We heard them talking. After the accident, they said we need to be distributed to different relatives." "We're triplets," added the third, Emma. My heart caught at the name. "We've never been apart." "Not ever." I looked at their worried faces and felt a pang of sympathy. But running away isn't the solution. Your family must be worried sick. "They don't care," Sophie insisted. "Not really. Not since Dad died." The words hit close to home. I knew what it was like to be left behind, to try to hold a family together after loss. How long have you been on your own? I asked. Just since this morning, Emma admitted. We took the bus here. And what's your plan? They fell silent, exchanging guilty looks. They were just children, acting on impulse and fear. Look, I said gently, I understand you're scared. But disappearing will only make things worse. Why don't we call your mom Anne? No, all three exclaimed at once. She'll be so angry, Olivia explained. And then they'll definitely separate us. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I couldn't just send them back out alone, but I couldn't harbor runaway children either. How about this, I suggested. You stay here with me for a little while. Have something to eat. Then we'll figure out the best way to contact your family without getting you in too much trouble. They reluctantly agreed. I ordered hot chocolates and sandwiches, watching as they devoured the food. They must have been hungry after their adventure. As they ate, they began to open up. Their father had died in a car accident 6 months ago. Their mother, apparently some kind of important businesswoman, had thrown herself into work, leaving the girls with a rotating cast of nannies and household staff. She doesn't even look at us anymore, Sophie said quietly. I think we remind her too much of Dad. I knew that feeling too well. There had been days when looking at Lily had been almost unbearable, her resemblance to Emma like a knife to my heart. Sometimes, I told them, grown-ups hide from the things that hurt them. It doesn't mean they don't care. Did you hide too? Emma asked perceptively. I nodded. When my wife died, I wanted to hide from the whole world. But I had my daughter to think about. Your daughter? Olivia perked up. How old is she? 7. Her name is Lily. Where is she now? At her art class. I'm picking her up soon. The girls exchanged looks again, some silent communication passing between them. Can we meet her? Sophie asked. I hesitated. This situation was already complicated enough. But before I could answer, the cafe door burst open again. This time, it wasn't just one man in a suit, but 3, followed by a harried-looking woman in a crisp uniform who I guessed was the missing nanny. There they are, she exclaimed, pointing at my table. The girls shrank back, huddling closer to me. The security men approached, and I instinctively stood, placing myself between them and the children. Hold on, I said, raising my hands. Let's not scare them. Sir, please step aside, one of the men said firmly. These children need to come with us. They're frightened, I replied. Maybe we could. It's okay, Mr. Bennett, the nanny interrupted, surprising me by using my name. We've been looking for the girls all morning. Their mother is frantic. I frowned. How do you know my name? She faltered slightly. The cafe owner mentioned it when we were asking about the girls. Something felt off, but the triplets were clearly recognized by the nanny, who called each by name. After some gentle coaxing and promises that they wouldn't be separated, the girls reluctantly agreed to go with her. As they gathered their things, Sophie tugged at my sleeve. Will we see you again? She asked hopefully. I don't think so, sweetheart, I said gently. But I'm glad I could help today. Thank you for the hot chocolate, Emma added. And for being our pretend dad. My heart squeezed. Anytime. I watched them leave, escorted by the security team, feeling strangely empty. The whole encounter had lasted less than an hour, but something about those 3 identical little girls had touched me deeply. Shaking off the feeling, I gathered my papers and headed to pick up Lily. She bounded out of her art class, proudly displaying a painting that looked more like a blue blob than a unicorn. It's beautiful, I told her, and meant it. Can we get ice cream? She asked, slipping her small hand into mine. Not today, sweetheart. We need to save for. Please, Daddy. Just a small one. I could never resist those eyes. Okay. Just a small one. We were at the ice cream shop when my phone rang, an unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it, but something made me answer. Mr. Bennett? A woman's crisp, professional voice. This is regarding the 3 girls you met today. My stomach tightened. Is everything okay? Their mother would like to speak with you. To thank you personally. That's not necessary. She insists. A car has been sent to your location. Before I could protest, she hung up. I stared at my phone, bewildered. How did they know where I was? Dad? Lily looked up from her ice cream. What's wrong? Nothing, sweetheart. Just a work thing. Minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside the shop. The driver opened the door, gesturing for us to enter. Lily, we need to make a quick stop somewhere, I told her, trying to keep my voice casual despite my growing unease. The car took us through the city to an area I rarely visited, where the buildings grew taller and more imposing. We pulled up to a gleaming skyscraper with the name Reynolds emblazoned across the top. Inside, we were escorted to a private elevator that whisked us to the top floor. Lily clutched my hand, sensing my tension. Where are we, Daddy? I'm not entirely sure, I admitted. The elevator opened directly into a vast office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Standing at the window, her back to us, was a woman in an impeccable suit, her dark hair pulled into a severe bun. Mr. Bennett, she said without turning. Thank you for coming. When she finally faced us, I felt the air leave my lungs. She was striking, not conventionally beautiful, but powerful, with sharp features and penetrating eyes. But what shocked me was her resemblance to the triplets. This was clearly their mother. I'm Catherine Reynolds, she said, extending her hand. I understand my daughters caused you some trouble today. I shook her hand, finding my voice. No trouble. I was concerned about them, that's all. Her eyes shifted to Lily, who was partially hiding behind my leg. Something flickered across Catherine's face, surprise, then an emotion I couldn't identify. And who is this? She asked, her voice softening slightly. My daughter, Lily. Catherine knelt down, bringing herself to Lily's level. Hello, Lily. I have 3 daughters about your age. Would you like to meet them? Lily nodded shyly. Catherine pressed a button on her desk, and moments later, the triplets burst into the room. They stopped short when they saw me, their faces lighting up. You came. Sophie exclaimed. Girls, Catherine said sharply. Please take Lily to the playroom while I speak with her father. The triplets surrounded Lily, chattering excitedly as they led her away. I watched nervously. They won't harm her, Catherine said, misinterpreting my concern. There are staff supervising. Once we were alone, her professional demeanor slipped slightly. Mr. Bennett, I want to thank you for looking after my daughters today. Their escapade could have ended very differently. They were scared, I said. They thought you were going to separate them. Catherine sighed, moving to sit behind her massive desk. Children overhear things and misinterpret. After their father died, I've been struggling to manage everything alone. I was discussing boarding school options with my sister, separate schools that might cater to their individual talents. The girls apparently heard separate and panicked. They miss their father, I said quietly. And they feel like they've lost you too. Her eyes flashed. You don't know anything about my relationship with my children. I know what it's like to lose a spouse and try to raise a child alone, I countered. I know how grief can make you push away the very people who need you most. For a moment, I thought she might throw me out. Instead, she seemed to deflate slightly. How did you do it? She asked, her voice barely audible. How did you keep going? One day at a time. And by remembering that Lily lost her mother, she shouldn't have to lose her father too, even if he's just going through the motions some days. Catherine was silent for a long moment. My husband built this company from nothing. When he died, I had to step in or watch his legacy crumble. The girls, they look so much like him. Sometimes I can't bear to look at them. I understand, I said gently. But they need their mother. She nodded slowly, then changed the subject. My security team ran a background check on you after the girls were found. I stiffened. That seems invasive. It's standard procedure when my children are involved. She pulled a file from her desk. Construction worker. Struggling financially since your wife's medical bills. Exemplary father by all accounts. I shifted uncomfortably. Is there a point to this? I'd like to offer you a job, Mr. Bennett. A job? My daughter's clearly connected with you. They need a stable male presence in their lives, a role model. I need someone I can trust to look after them when I can't be there. I blinked, stunned. You want me to be their nanny? More like a guardian. The position comes with a substantial salary and accommodation for you and your daughter in the guest house on my estate. My mind reeled. The offer was tempting, financial security, a better life for Lily. But something felt wrong. Why me? You don't even know me. Catherine hesitated, then pressed another button on her desk. A screen descended from the ceiling, displaying what looked like a DNA comparison chart. What is this? I asked. When my security team ran your background check, they also ran a DNA comparison. Standard procedure, she added, though her voice suggested it was anything but. And? Catherine took a deep breath. Mr. Bennett, are you aware that your late wife underwent fertility treatments before your daughter was conceived? The question hit me like a physical blow. Yes. We had trouble conceiving. What does that have to do with anything? The clinic she used, New Hope Fertility, was involved in a scandal 7 years ago. Certain ethical breaches occurred. My heart began to pound. What kind of breaches? Embryo mixing. Cross-contamination. Catherine's voice was clinical, but her hands trembled slightly. My husband and I used the same clinic for our triplets. The room seemed to tilt. What are you saying? I'm saying that according to these tests, your daughter Lily and my daughters share significant genetic markers. They're half-siblings, Mr. Bennett. I gripped the edge of her desk, feeling as if the floor had dropped away. That's impossible. I had the tests run 3 times, Catherine said quietly. There's no mistake. My mind flashed to Lily, her dark hair so unlike my blonde or Emma's red. The shape of her eyes, nothing like either of ours. Little things I'd attributed to distant relatives or genetic quirks. Emma never knew, I whispered. We were just so happy to have Lily. Richard, my husband, never knew either, Catherine said. The clinic covered up their mistakes. It only came to light recently, through an internal whistleblower. I sank into a chair, trying to process this bombshell. Does this mean Lily isn't mine? Biologically? The tests suggest she's half yours and half my husband's. Catherine's voice caught.